Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Untitled Reviews. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Lawman, Bass Reeves, Season 1, Episode 2. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we're immediately not even immediately, because we're catching up 10 years later. Bass and Jenny have, their family has grown. They don't just have Sally anymore. They have three others, which if you look at the actors' names in the credits, their last names are Godson, so I'm assuming they've all got to actually be real life siblings, which is actually kind of adorable. But yeah, they have a total of four, including Sally, and they've got a fifth one on the way. It's like, wow, that's a big family. But I guess that shouldn't be too much of a surprise, especially back then. Like, big families wasn't that much of a surprise, but still, I didn't know that was Bass Reeves' family circumstances. But yeah, he's working as a farmer, trying to make ends meet, but it's not working out. And obviously it's like, and I love that conversation he has with his wife, where it's just like, oh, like, do you think I did something to kind of, piss off the Almighty? And she's like, no, but I think this is just him telling you, just testing you, and he's trying to teach you. And he's like, oh, that I'm not a farmer. She's like, no, that it takes patience, essentially. And it is that complicated. I'm not the most religious person, so I always feel conflicted about that situation, but it's like, even the trials you go through in life, that it's like, yeah, it's just God testing. Because even later on, Cheryl had asked him, like, yeah, you believe in God, the same God that let you be in chains for half your life? He's like, yes, but he's like, that wasn't God, that was man. It was man that put me in those chains. God gave me the hope that one day I would land outside of it. It's that interesting thing, that conundrum, and believe it. It's that despite your circumstances, but despite what you've done, the bad that's been done to you, the bad in your life, still believing in. That's what having faith is, right? It's supposed to be. Once again, I'm not a religious person, but I always think that's such an interesting. Because I think typically I like to describe myself as a pessimist with optimistic tendencies. But either way, Bass was trying to figure out how things were going to make ends meet, and that's when Deputy Marshal Cheryl shows up, and he's hunting down Charlie, because he's basically, I don't know if it's the same thing, but it seems like Charlie's doing the equivalency of bootlegging, because it's revolving around whiskey, but I guess it's like he's like illegally getting whiskey and stuff like that. Or maybe like the indigenous people don't have law, like the law doesn't favor them doing stuff like that. So like I said, they didn't use the word, because maybe this probably predates the word bootlegging, because I would assume, I don't know if that predated like the era of bootlegging, like in the, what was it, like when was Prohibition? When Prohibition in like the 20s and 30s? Because wasn't it around the time of the Great Depression? Because I know the Great Depression was like started in 29 and went to like, wasn't that like 37? Maybe it might even been all the way through World War II, because I think, or at least part way through World War II. My history is god awful. My knowledge of history is god awful, so do forgive me. But either way, I wonder if it's essentially the equivalency of bootlegging. But Cheryl's after him, and so he's willing to bring Bass on, and it's like, hey, you can be one of my posse men. You'll even get paid for it. He actually didn't want to do it, but it was actually Jenny who convinced him to do it otherwise. Because for him, it's like, I love that notion of like, yeah, when we had nothing, we dreamed of everything. And for him, it's like, you and the kids, and me and you and the kids, this is my everything. But it's just kind of like, you are good at what you do. But for him, it's like, yeah, but it's a white man asking me to put that gun in my hand. Like, it, obviously you've got a little, don't have a real good history of a white man asking you to, having a gun in your hand. But either way, Bass ends up doing it. They end up getting like attacked. Well, they end up coming across like a preacher who was killed by these three people. And even Cheryl said, it's like, yeah, this is lawless land, which I should also point out, because he's in the opening credits, but it's like, yeah, Dennis Quaid is playing Cheryl. So it's like, I don't think I knew at all like he was in this. I think I might have knew, like, because he's in opening credits. I knew Donald Sutherland was, I think, but I did not remember or realize that Dennis Quaid was. So that was interesting. But going along with it, like I said, that really interesting conversation between them about the whole, because he doesn't really have much of a faith and he doesn't really believe much in hope, and I think it speaks volumes about Bass. Like, he doesn't like, because it is that interesting thing, because Bass comes from the perspective of, doesn't matter what our skin color are, at the end of the day, we are all men, because Cheryl refers to indigenous people as savages, because he has a complicated history with them, but for him, it's like the fact is Bass would, pray for this like preacher, because at the end of the day, he might be a white man. He probably has his conflict with some white people, but it's not like he doesn't put that, because sadly, a lot of white people would put, any indigenous person or a black person under the same umbrella, but Bass doesn't. He sees like, this is a man of God and please embrace him, and even gave him a proper burial. And once again, that speaks volumes to Bass's character and who he is and his view on the world. And I think that is that thing of, despite the terrible things that were done to you, the terrible things you've had to see, that you, once again, you not only you have your faith and you hold true to it, and you keep that goodness in your heart, when the world could easily make you jaded. Like, he could just as easily be Cheryl. And I think that's why the duality of these characters, where it's like, especially when you find out like why Cheryl has such a heated perspective, because for him it's like, they do these indigenous people, it's not the word he uses. Once again, he uses savages. Not even then, he also uses like, refers to as reds, but that's where like, you had passing like, right, black, white, red, we're all men at the end of the day, we're all human beings. Because he had a situation where like him and a whole bunch of people, I don't know if that was kind of implying that he was in the military. He might have specifically said that, I'm just not remembering, but they got attacked, and it's like some of him and his man managed to get away, but then he almost slipped into the great beyond, until the pain of someone stepping their boot on his neck and trying to scalp him. He even has like a massive scar on his head. He's like, yeah, like they did that to me, and he's being bound by all that anger and pain of the past, And like I said, duality, but juxtaposition of like, Cheryl is driven by that, but Bass isn't, Yes, he has his complicated history. He looks back on the past kind of in that complicated notion. That's why he wasn't too quick to want to join Cheryl on this little hunt of his. But it was more like, he's able to separate the past and like carry it with him, but also not let it be like fuel his heart with hate, because he's got too much love in his life for him to drown in that hate. But Cheryl kind of doesn't. Like, all he has is that hate. So they end up he believes it's Charlie's wife, but Bass ends up talking to her, and they don't bring it up, but you can't help but think of, and I'm surprised that they didn't flash to it, but on some level, like, it was a parallel similar to the whole Curtis and Pierce situation from last episode. I mean, for Charlie, that was like over a decade ago, but not Charlie, but for Bass, that was over a decade ago. But like, he ended up getting her to lower the gun. Turns out she's not even Charlie's wife; that's his cousin. And she, which I kept looking, I was like, is that the same actress? And I think it is. Her name is Crystal Lightning. She played the main protagonist of the show Trickster. She played his mom, but it also, because I think I distinctly remember her popping up in, I think her character's name was it Misty or Missy in Three Pines? And I think I distinctly remember saying like the same thing of like, oh yeah, that's the thing I know her from is Trickster. But yeah, she was in Three Pines as well. But yeah, like Charlie, she's always basically, a lot of her life has been basically having to pay his debts and suffer the ramifications of what Charlie's done. So it's like, right, whatever you have to bring down on Charlie, that's on him. He kind of dug his own grave. So, but do let me know what happened to Charlie, because I was kind of scared, because I mean, you had Cheryl outside looking around. I was like, are you going to cause issues? I mean, literally the moment he broke into like her house, everyone in the community is looking at him, and he's just kind of, all right, not stupid enough to do anything with so many people around. But yeah, they eventually confront Charlie, and Bass is trying to get him to come out. It's like, hey, I will escort you to Fort whatever myself. But it's like, no, Cheryl's not going to let me go. Like, after everything I've done, there's no way that's going to happen. And Cheryl literally throws Molotov cocktails in there and burns Charlie alive. I was halfway expecting the moment Charlie came out in flames that he was going to, because he was waiting like on the edge of the house. I thought he was going to shoot Charlie the moment he came out, but he didn't. It actually was Bass who put him down out of trying to spare him. It was out of mercy. It's so interesting too because there's an exact situation that Ginny had to be in where like there was a baby calf that was being eaten by wolves and it was suffering and she put it down. So it's like interesting and I think that was 100% on purpose. But it's like that situation didn't sit well with Bass, that whole thing. And Cheryl's like, well, the fact of the matter is he shot at us first. Like, because he was trying to say, like, I tried to do that because I didn't want to wait around all day. Also didn't want to take the chance Charlie might have killed one of us in the process. Because for him, it's like, Charlie isn't worth, like, losing any sleep over. Because he's almost like, I won't lose any, so you shouldn't either. So, but Bass had enough, and it's just, you've got a chain around your heart. He's like, oh, you would know, wouldn't you? And it's just like, because Bass knocked him out. It's like, I even love when he talked to Ginny later. It's like, yeah, about that payment, I hit a white man again. And it's like, not the deputy. He was like, yeah. And she doesn't scold him. She's just kind of like, oh, well, like, because I think she trusts Bass enough to be like, if you did it, you probably had good enough reason to do it. So I'm not gonna chastise you about it. Which for her, she ended up, buying a piano with the promise of, oh yeah, the money that Bass was going to make from this situation, being a posse man, would have let them pay off the piano. I did like that interesting interaction she had with the guy who we see him in the opening credits as well. So he's going to be a recurring character. Is that he's it's interesting because he's like, oh, like, I want to basically show you paradise, specifically one where all the black folk will own a state of our own. And I look like that interesting line from Jenny being like, there's only one paradise and that's the one of above. Because she's like, she sees him as a little bit of a snake oil salesman of like, you're trying to sell me some whiskey or something. I'm not buying it. I'm not trying to buy whatever you're trying to sell. So he comes off a little bit like the charmer, which I'm sure is going to bite him in the ass at some point in the story, but we'll see. We only got one scene with him. And also we got introduced to Arthur, who seems to be very sweet on Sally, but I love that, like, you could tell Ginny kind of picks up on that. It's like, Sally, get inside. It's like, yeah, how about you focus on your work, boy? And he shows up later on being like, oh yeah, can I fix your piano? And she's like, you're very sweet, but don't ever come back here again. Not until she's older. Because I guess for her, she sees it as like because we have no idea how long her and Bass have had a thing. Because to be fair, probably, I know, like, what was it? He was like 20-something before this most recent time skip. Like him and Jen, and who knows how long they'd been together before then. But, because at the beginning of this series, it takes place, 62? He was like 24 at the beginning of this series. Because he's like 38 now. 37 actually, yeah. He's 37 now. But I'm curious, like, how long him and Ginny have known each other. So that she probably looks at Arthur and sees like, oh boy, and the way you can tell Sally's kind of responding to it, like, oh boy, young love. I know, I was there. That's why she's like, wait till she's older. But she did have this nice moment with Sally where it's like playing the piano with her. It's like, I learned, because I'm assuming she's talking about, I'm assuming she's referencing Miss Reeves about, the plantation person taught me, maybe it's the person before she went to Miss Reeves, or maybe it was Miss Reeves, thought she was doing me a kindness by teaching me how to play the piano. But it's like, yeah, the piano was hers, but the music is mine. So go through life having something that is yours and yours alone that can't be taken from you. And it's like, yeah, I might not had that piano anymore, and maybe I had to get one of my own, but at the end of the day, I will always have that music. That will be mine. And I thought that was kind of a beautiful thing kind of between them. Because she is worried. She's like, yeah, like, the fact is, she's got dreams of faraway places, but I'm scared at the moment she gets a little older, she's going to go off, live her own life, and by the time she comes back, she'll be different. It's like, I know, because we were exactly the same. Like, we were different after our situations. I guess she's specifically referencing, like, the 3 years they were apart in the first episode and them coming back. And we both came back different people, you know, from our respective journeys in that time frame. So, but the episode ends with Cheryl returning because for him, at the end of the day, he's like, I would do the same thing all over again, because if it meant you and I still had air in our lungs, then I would Charlie wasn't going to get, I wasn't going to let Charlie be the end of us, which even Bass is like, I wouldn't change how I handled that either. I'd skipped over it, but he actually went and paid Charlie's cousin, I think in the credits her name is Nita. I think it was like Nita, I believe. But even she appreciated Bass doing what he did, like him trying. Because for her, it's like, my cousin always flirted with death. And even he knew at one point in time he was going to catch that kiss, you know? And I was like, once again, it's like, oh, the like poetic way people were able to like say stuff like that. It's like, oh, like that is like the most poetic way you could like put something like that, like flirting with death. And it was only a certain amount of time before you caught death's kiss. I mean, it doesn't change the fact that he's still family, but because Bass was like, at the end of the day, Charlie did deserve his day of court, and I'm sorry things went down that way. And even admitted it wasn't quick and it wasn't easy. It was obviously very painful. But I think like she legitimately did appreciate Bass trying, and it does suck. It's like, well, it would have happened eventually. Like he was always like that, but still doesn't make it like hurt any less of like, yeah, I knew he was causing trouble and it would eventually catch up. Like, death was always going to be a possibility for him no matter what. It just, I guess Charlie, I mean, because even Charlie had said, like, that's why he was reluctant to come out, because he's like, death's either coming for me today or tomorrow. Once again, even he knew, so. But yeah, Cheryl shows up and you talk to Judge Parker about Bass's, what was the exact word he had said? I'm blanking on it. But it was just kind of like the goodness that Bass is. And he's even saying like, one day it will get you killed, but you are someone built for this type of job. So the judge has kind of agreed hearing about you and wants to make you a deputy marshal. Can you handle the weight of that badge? And for him, it's like, yeah, I can. And for him, he feels even more justified in doing this because he's going to go out and do the Lord's work, justice. So definitely, now that Bass is now officially a deputy, like what his journey looks like going forward for the rest of the season is definitely going to be interesting to see what because I did see the trailer, but it's been a little while, so I might not remember a lot of it. So, but either way, I'm excited. I wonder since we keep bringing up Judge Parker, I wonder is that Donald Sutherland's character? I don't know anything. I haven't even looked at like the cast of this show, so I don't even know if that's the case. But that's just immediately where my brain went. But maybe he's not. I mean, we do see like the actor who plays Pierce is in the opening credits, so he will circle back at some point in time. So I'm assuming him and Bass will cross under what pair, like is he just a straight up outlaw that Bass is going to eventually cross paths with, or what? We'll ultimately have to wait and see, but I'm excited to see where the rest of the series ends up taking us. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good